Hi, I'm Coach Ariana, and this is how you run a 6-2. A 6-2 is when you have 2 setters and 6 attackers, essentially. So when you start with serve, you have your setter in your right back position, serving first, then your outside as the second server, middle, right side / other setter. So this is where you could either have your setter hitting front row, or you can sub them in for a right side and then have them come back in when it's there in the back row to set. Then you have your other outside and your other middle. Okay, this is where right in the beginning when you write down the lineup, you would either have your libero, if you have one, going in for your middles or your outsides. Teams tend to do both. So for this purpose, we're going to have them go in for middles because this is what happens most of the time. So then your middle would then come out as soon as the ref says, here you go. And then now we have our libero on the court. So if we start serve receive though, Daniel, come back. Okay. If we start in serve receive, you're technically starting in rotation 6. So then you have your first setter up at the net. Everyone slide over one, rotation 6. Okay, so now your setter here, if you want her to be your first server, she would be starting in the front row. And then for this one rotation, you have your second setter starting as the person in the back. She has hands first. Okay, so go back to rotation 1. Okay, the ref says you're good to go, so now libero come in for your middle. Okay, and then go serve, like pretend to serve. And then you guys come to your spots. Okay, so they're getting ready to go back to their bases in the front row. So once she serves the ball, you guys go to your bases. So you have your outside coming over here to your outside position, your right side / other setter coming to their spot, their setter at right back base, libero in the middle back base, and outside in the left back base. Another option is to make your libero's base be left back, so switch and show what that would look like. Okay, and so if your libero is playing left back, then your outside would then go to middle back if, like, once the ball is over the net or the ball is in play. So go back to serve and then go back to your bases and then show what it would look like if that was the case. So you would actually start in middle right now, and then you would start over here, 10-foot line. Okay, as soon as our first server serves the ball, then we have everyone go to their base. Okay, and now we're in play. So now we have our setter in their base, we have our right side / setter in their right side base, our middle, our other outside, our libero playing left back base, and our outside playing middle back base. But you can decide as whatever works best for your specific team. Okay, so go back to your bases really fast. Like where you're serving your rotational base. Yep. Okay, and then show what it would look like on serve receive rotation 1. So you're getting pushed up over here. Your outside gets pushed up over here with your first server. First setter or server, I guess. Same thing. Okay, the key here, I don't know if you were able to even see it. Okay, so you can see over here on the side that you have your outside at the net with her hands up, getting ready to block, and you have your setter number 1 all the way against the sideline behind your front row player. Here the key is that you cannot have your libero passing your setter. So that's why your setter's all the way at the sideline, because now she can move all the way up to right here without being out of rotation. Okay, so then as long as they're in a straight line, right, you're pulling back, so you have to be in front of your back row players. So as long as this little line right here, as long as she's in front of them, she's also in rotation. Everything else is good. So this is rotation 1, serve receive, option 1. Serve receive, option 2 is when you have your setter pulled back. Okay, and you have your outside standing all the way in front of her. Come here, right here. You have to be in front of your back row players. And then you have your setter running up alongside. So if you have a really strong outside hitter that can pass, this would be a good option to get out of that serve receive, because you have your setter, then your second setter / right side over here to hit the outside one time. So once the ball goes over the net and then they're in play, they all do their thing and then they go back to base. For the sake of this video, let's continue having it be middle back base so that it's faster, because we can't have people walking around the court. So go there. Hustle. Okay, so now we get the point, whatever, rotation 2. So rotation 2, you have your outside as your second server. Behind your middle. Okay, so you have your outside. You have your outside serving. Your setter is at their base. Their middle libero is at their base, and your outside can then serve along the end line anywhere she wants. And now you have your other outside coming in to the front row. Okay, so as soon as she's done serving, she makes contact with the ball and everyone goes to their base. Okay, so their outside then comes up to left back base if that's the base that she's playing in the back row. Otherwise, she would go to the middle back base. Okay, so then that's rotation 2. So go back to rotation 2. Show them one more time. Okay, so in this exact rotation, you have your first setter in their base already, because your server doesn't count as on the court during this time. So she's not overlapping anyone by your outside being off the court serving and your other two players on the court. So rotationally, your outside is technically on this side of your setter, but because she's serving, she can stay off the court and stand anywhere while they go to their bases. So then you have your middle, number 2 / your libero and middle back. Then you have your outside serving. Then you have your other outside up here, your right side in the middle technically, and then you have your other middle in right side, technically in the middle though still. When doing rotations, you have your middle always standing in the middle, and then everyone, your pin hitters, moving around them. It makes it easier for everybody. Okay, so serve the ball. Okay, and then go to your bases. All right, serve, receive, rotation 2. All right, so right here you have both your setters here in the middle. Okay, you have your front row setter, your setter number 2 here, your setter number 1 pushing up. The key here is that your outside hitter that just served has to stay on the right side of your setter number 1. Raise your hand. So your outside hitter that just served, raise your hand. Continue raising your hand. Your outside hitter that just served has to stay on this side of your setter that's in the back row pushing up to stay in rotation. Okay, and then you have your libero right here. And then you have one option as to where you can have your outside pull back to pass on serve receive, or she can go up to the 10-foot line, and then you can have your middle pull back to serve receive. It's your choice. The only thing that has to do is that your libero has to stay on this side, the left side of your setter, and your outside has to stay on the right side of your setter. Okay, that's the only trick there. All right, rotation 3. Rotation 3 is where your libero runs off the court and your middle runs on. Stop, go back. The only thing here is that the libero has to run on and off the court behind the 10-foot line. So make sure that you're behind the 10-foot line, and then go up to your base. Okay, and then you're back. All right, and then you have your first middle on serve. So here you can see that you have your middle already in their middle spot, so they're already at their base. You have your outside switching off and going to their base, and then your right side gathering in the middle but is technically already in her base as well. So if you're dealing with beginning teams, you can actually have your right side stand right at their base, and then you only have to worry about your outside getting to their base. Here you have your outside also passing, so she stands at the 10-foot line with your setter number 1. Okay, and they're in the middle, switching over to their bases. Outside is going to be playing left back base, and right side / your setter number 1 is going to be playing right back base. And then your middle, as soon as she's done serving, she goes right into the middle spot. So if you want to serve, make contact. Once the ball is contacted, you are able to then go to your base. Here is also where your libero could technically serve, depending on who you want your libero to serve for, or if you don't want them to serve at all. They can serve for only one player in one position. So let's say that, raise your hand, our libero serves for him, then she can't serve for anybody else on the team. And if, let's say that our libero served for his position, so he's technically in zone 6 when we started our rotation. So that libero serving in zone 6 can only serve in zone 6 for the rest of that set, no matter who is in that position. So if you subbed him out and put someone else in, but the libero already served for zone 6, you can't have the liberos serve for any other zone, but you can have the other player serve for the libero instead, if that makes sense. I can elaborate more if needed. All right, so let's say that you lost your serve, whatever. Now you're on serve receive, rotation 3. Your libero comes back in, and you run off the court. Yep, and then our libero is over here in the middle because you have your right side / your second setter pulling back, and it's the exact same thing that we did on the other side, but here you have, if you can see it, here you have, raise your hand, girls. You have your outside, no, you're wrong. Switch, you're wrong. Middle is always pushing up in the outside position because the middle just came in, so that means that your middle is over there, right? Middle is technically out of right back in rotational base, and middle is technically in the outside spot for rotation base. But because you have your right side / your second setter pulling back, your libero then pulls into the middle to on serve receive. So here you have your setter pushing up your middle hitter who's going to hit outside once. And the only trick here, again, is that your outside hitter that's playing back row right now is unable to pass your setter. So the only trick here is to make sure that your setter is all the way along that sideline so that your back row player is able to move anywhere is needed to get that ball. And then you have your outside, who you can position technically anywhere on this 10-foot line as long as she doesn't pass your other right side / your second setter on the court to get that short ball. Okay, the other thing that you can do to hide a player, let's just say your libero is she's just missing all those balls. I don't know, really good server, right? And she's getting in her head. So what we can do here is we can actually pull back the girl on the 10-foot line. As long as she's in front of her 2 back row players, please raise your hand. As long as she's in front of both of them and not crossing your middle, okay, then they can move anywhere on the court. So if you wanted, come over here. If you wanted your libero to take these really deep balls right here, and then your outside to take the other really deep ball over here, and just have your, let's just say these 2 are really strong passers and you want them to get those short balls, this would be a way to hide a player. And if not, let's just say you wanted to hide your libero, and you can step up all the way to 1 foot behind her. Okay, as long as your back row player stays behind these 2 girls, then you're good to go. Does that make sense? Did I explain that okay? Oh, good. Glad you guys are learning. Okay. Any questions? Am I missing any rotation options here? Okay, so rotation 4. Rotation 4 is where your second server, this is where 5-1 and 6-2 become different. So they're actually the exact same thing until right now. Right now, it's what we just went over, repeated over again. Otherwise, your setter would be front row and no one would have to push up or pull back during this time. But because we have the second setter running a 6-2, we will have to pull up and push back on serve receive. So right here you have your second setter now coming into the back row. You have your outside hitter, you have your middle, number 2, your outside number 2, middle number 2, and then your first setter now right side. Right here, and then you have your outside over here, your libero for middle in the back row. So she serves the ball and they go to base. All right, so now you can either sub in your first setter for an attacker, or if she's also an attacker, this is an opportunity for setters to show their skills too, you know, get some credit for what they can do. Okay, so on serve receive, you repeat what we did for rotation 1. So go to your rotational base, okay, and then you're getting pushed up by your second setter here. Okay, as long as you're all the way along the sideline, yep. And then your middle comes back to the 10-foot line to get those really short balls. You can come all the way up too, but you just cannot pass your second setter. Does that make sense? Okay, and then first setter can go anywhere as long as she is, so you can see, you can raise your hands. You can see that they're getting pushed up over there, and then you have your libero pulled all the way over, and then you have your outside pulling into the middle back, and then you have your first setter / second right side pulling back to pass and can go as far as one step in front of her back row players and all the way up to the 10-foot line if wanted. So show how far back you can go. Okay, so she can technically be all the way back. As long as she's not the same line as them or behind them, then she's still in rotation. Another option, again, just like the rotation 1, would be to have her pull up, okay, and then you guys pull back to pass. You'd be in the middle, you'd be in the outside. Okay, as long as you're behind her, stay far behind her. Yep. On this one, I would be careful because a lot of refs like to call your setter for leaving too early. So make sure that you tell your setter to wait until as soon as they make contact before they actually move up to the net. Because if she crosses them too early before they make contact, they can call you on out of rotation, and that's not fun. So here's another option. One other option, and the good thing about running a 6-2 is, let's just say that you cannot for the life of you get out of this rotation. Well, another thing you could do is have April outside, come on to the 10-foot line. You pull back to pass like a normal passer. You have 3 passers in the back. You then have 2 passers in the front, and then you can have your first setter come up to the net to get that second ball. Instead of having your back row setter get that ball, you can have your first setter grab that ball, so it would look like this. That way you can just get out of it for that one, and then as soon as the ball is in play, you can go back to having your second setter having hands and your first setter hitting. All right. Rotation 5. Rotation 5 is your second outside hitter serving. Oops. You go right into the middle. Yep. Again, if it's a beginner team, you can have your outside start right in their base. But if it's a more experienced team and you don't have to worry about them as much, you can have them all pull into the middle and then disperse their bases later. Then you have your second setter already at her base over here, and your libero in middle back, and then your outside coming straight into base as soon as they make contact with the ball when serving. Serve, and then you guys disperse to your bases. Easy enough. Show it again. And then they go to their base. All right, rotation 5, serve receive. So this is where you have your setters pushing your other setter up, and then you have all of the girls pulling back in the back, and you're at the 10-foot line as the middle. 10-foot line. You're pulling back to pass. The only thing here is that you have to stay on this side of your setter, and you have to stay on this side of your setter. So I would come to like right here, okay, so that you can take up this space because she can't cross her. Make sense? Okay, so then right here you have your outside pulling back to pass, but if you didn't want that, you could have your outside come to the 10-foot line, and then you could shift everyone over. Remember, you still cannot cross your setter though, so you have to stay on this side of your setter still. Okay, and then you have your middle pulling back to pass. The only thing here is your middle cannot cross your 2 back row players. One other thing you could have is have your libero, basketball line, whatever it is, free throw. I'm not a basketball player. And then right here, pinching. Come up a little bit. There you go. So now you have your 2 setters in the front row pulling up, pushing up. Then you have your middle covering that short, but also the what I call the donut. And then you have your outside doing the exact same on the other side. And then you have your 2 back row players grabbing all of the deep balls. All right, rotation 6. This is where your libero goes in and out behind the 10-foot line again. Okay, and then your middle comes right up into the middle spot, and then your outside is on this side. Make it known. Your outside is on the right side of your middle, crossing over to the outside base. Then you have your first setter, second right side hitter, already technically at her base, but again, she can come in and then just disperse when the ball's hit. Then you have your right side and your left side in the back switching to go to their bases as soon as the middle is done serving. We'll show it twice. We'll show it with the middle serving, and then we'll show it what it could look like if the libero was serving. So first, serve the ball, go to your bases. Okay, so that is what it would look like if your middle was serving. Now I want you to go back to rotation 5 really quick. That means that Jenna, you're off, libero, you're still in. Okay, so if you want your libero to serve for your second middle, okay, then what you can actually do, because they are in the exact same position, you can have both your middles run on and off the court with each other behind the 10-foot line, and your libero, who's already on the court in the back row, just go right back to the serving line. So on rotation 6, this is what that looks like. Jenna. Okay, so your 2 middles are switching in and out for each other, and your libero goes straight back to serve. Your outside is still over here, switching over. Okay, so that's what that would look like. If your libero randomly went in for your outside and then needed to serve for your middle, you already lost that chance. You can't. Your middle would then have to serve the ball because when it's a different position, you can't switch. There has to be a 1 point in between. So the only time that the libero can come off and come right back on is when it's the same position being switched out. Anytime that the libero goes in for one position and you want them to go in for another position, again, there has to be 1 point in between the switch. All right, so serve the ball and then go to your base. All right, so this is, again, rotation 6 with your libero serving the ball instead. All right, rotation 6, serve receive. This is where your second setter is pushing up your middle hitter. And then you have your first setter / second right side pulling back to pass on serve receive. And then you have your libero in the middle and your outside in the back as well. This is also the exact same as rotation 2. No, wait, sorry. Rotation 3. This is the same thing as rotation 3 when you can move your outside hitter that's in the front row anywhere along that 10-foot line, and you can pull her back to hide a player as well. Again, this is the same thing as well on the other side as rotation 4 and 1, is you can have your second setter pull back and then have your middle stand in front of her. and have them run up. Now this is not ideal at all. This is like last resort because your setter's base, because your passer's target is right here. So having to run across the court just to pass the ball on serve receive is not, this would not be ideal. The only time that this would ever happen is if your second setter, let's just say, isn't that strong on serve receive. You might have your middle pass and then your first setter come up to take that second ball instead of your setter that's on the court right now. That way it makes it easy. Then you quickly get out of this rotation and then you go right back to normal. And then that's all, right? Does anyone have any questions? Do I need to elaborate on anything? Are you sure? Good? Woo! That completes rotation video for 6-2.